So Google stands obviously for a company that was seeking and developing and exploiting the opportunities of the internet in the last 20 years like probably no other company. As we all know, it's a very experimental company, trying out things. Some things work out great, sometimes don't, and they drop them. That's part of their understanding how innovation happens. Just give it a try, and you see. And as we speak now, and the Internet of Things is getting to be graspy for most of us, it's fair to say that the Internet of Things will transform the World Wide Web in a way that we hardly can imagine. But if we can't imagine it, at least there are some people who have better insights than most of us. And one of them will come upstage right now. He's the principal, new products of Google in Germany, Jens Redmer, and he tells us what Google's perspective on opportunities for digital Germany on the year 2015. Jens, please come up. Oops.
Hi there, and thank you for letting me talk today. Today in Hamburg and Berlin, I come from Hamburg, the German Olympic Committee will decide which city will make the race for the submission, for the German submission for the Olympic Games in 2024. And independent of which city is actually going to make that race for the submission, I think that a lot of people will win through the submission, and independent of how big the chances are that the Olympics 2024 will come to Germany. Let's keep our fingers crossed. This picture here is from 2012, from the 2012 Olympics opening in London. And Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the internet, typed in a few words that were produced and shown in the stadium. He sat in the center and typed a message to the world: this is for everyone. And I feel that today the internet is for everyone. And today many of us feel that we can take it for granted. We have all the entire internet in our pockets, but that of course assumes that you're one of the lucky 2 billion people on the planet that already have access to the internet. We're going to see many more users in the next few years. 5 billion people today do not have access to the internet, to even the simplest and most elementary accesses to information. And this is actually why Google is also investing in some of the experimental products like Google Loon, which are balloon-powered internet vehicles that fly up in the stratosphere about twice the altitude of commercial air traffic and can send internet connectivity to remote locations so you can have more people connected to the internet. But also, as we just heard, we're seeing many more devices. If you look around here, there's so many startups. I think it's absolutely fantastic to see this. So many startups working on connecting more things, more devices to the internet and enable greater services and more useful services with these new devices. And we're not talking about these kinds of devices, not necessarily mobile phones. You see TVs, any kind of handheld devices, fitness trackers. You see home automation examples. You even see lamp posts connected to the internet and optimize their light throughout the day by various services. So go check out the ENBW store and the ENBW booth to see that. So the internet truly has become connected, and things are becoming connected. Here's one example of one whole new category of connected devices, wearables. And you can try them out at the Google booth upstairs. Most people check their phones probably 150 times daily, and the idea behind a product that we call Android Wear, which is kind of the operating system for smartwatches, extends the Android ecosystem to smart watches, to wearable devices. So you can save a lot of time by taking your phone out of the pocket, unlocking it, typing in your passcode, and then checking for email or checking for a text message that just came in. Simply by talking to your watch, by swiping a few things on your watch, it just makes it a little easier. Again, try it out at the Google booth upstairs. But what about when you're in a car? It may be a little unsafe to look at your watch while you're driving. It may be a little unsafe using your phone, typing a text message or setting up navigations on your phone and leaving the eyes of the road or the hands of the car. This is why we also have extended the Android ecosystem into the car, and really excited that our partner Audi, who have been a long-term partner for Google and various connected services in the car, have sent a concept car to this hall at the Google booth. And you can try it yourself how Android in the car would actually feel. It's really neatly integrated into the car navigation system, so you can use your voice to search for things. You can say, take me to Berlin, or you can just simply say, I'm hungry, and the system will provide you suggestions for food locations nearby. So it's very, very sleek and neat user interface, simply by speaking to your car and enabling you to keeping the hands on the road, the eyes on the road, and your hands on the steering wheel. Audi has announced that they will have this ready. It's not only a concept or an idea or prototype. They will have cars ready for sale within this year. And they're joining roughly 40 partners worldwide who are working actively on what we call the Open Automotive Alliance, bringing better services, more connected services into connected cars, and working on our joint goal of making driving more fun and safer. The internet also, obviously, and that's coming to the title of the presentation, brings a lot of additional opportunities, and they're benefiting people from all backgrounds, from all businesses, from all sizes, small or large. The internet has enabled every type of business, small or large, to compete with big multinationals at a global scale. So in the past, only the big multinationals were able to have global reach, to have a global audience, and to have global talent pool, access to global talent pools. Today, the internet has changed all of this. So we're seeing micro multinationals, super small companies of maybe only 2 or 3 employees that are reaching a global audience with hundreds of millions of users every day. But still, this is the very beginning. We see that many people are still being put on the internet and gaining access to services. In the digital economy, every business is a digital business. So again, no matter whether you're small or large, you can use and leverage the opportunities that the internet and digitization brings to you. Here's an example from a city called Dresden here in Germany, where a small company selling Christstollen, sweet bakery goods, they have been doing that for the last 40 years, mainly offline, and they only had a small store. When they discovered the internet, they were able to not only find additional audience in Germany, but also starting to export some of their goods into other countries. So now they find that they have more than 500,000 searches for Christstollen every year, but they also export into countries like Japan, the States, Mexico, or Canada. And obviously, revenues increased. Entrepreneurs in the digital economy are also creating innovative new business models, and they're driving job creation. Some job categories through digitization will disappear or have disappeared, but we see that for every job lost, studies show that 2.6 new jobs are created. So the race between losing jobs and gaining jobs has actually a very positive balance. And in addition, research also shows that for every 1 job created in high-tech, up to 4 additional non-high-tech jobs are being created. So the internet actually not only drives the economy for new businesses, it also drives job creation. Here in Germany, additional research that we have performed with the German Institute for Economy also reported that some of our Google products have helped to create 28,000 companies and 100,000 jobs in Germany only within 4 years. So again, the internet is a big steam engine for the economy and for driving new ideas. Thirdly, I already mentioned and touched on this, export. Germany are the world champions, the Weltmeister of export, so we should leverage these opportunities for these companies as well. 25% of the German export have been driven through internet services, says again a study that has been recently published here in Germany. And also take some examples like the Christstollen guy the small bakery. We have manifold case studies where small companies like a cuckoo clock maker from the Schwarzwald may have been able to sell their goods not only to a local community that has just visited the Black Forest, but they can now sell to a worldwide and global audience with various services. We also started an initiative to boost small and medium-sized businesses and help them to understand the opportunities that export brings with a campaign that's called the Growth Engine, or in German, Weltweit wachsen. Again, you're invited to have a closer look at how we do this at our booth upstairs. So far, more than 650,000 users have used that, and more than 300,000 case studies and export plans have been created through this initiative. And lastly, the internet is also good for culture. Google has a long-standing history of making information accessible also in the cultural space. So in Germany, we partner with dozens of cultural institutions to make available digital content. In Munich with the Deutsches Museum, in Berlin with the Museumsinsel, and many museums locally. So a fantastic way to gain access to cultural goods, even if you're not in Germany. But something that concerns many Europeans is the idea that Europe already has fallen back behind the US, that the US is winning everything. And you can understand that feeling to some degree. Do you know of any European super successful internet company? However, the fact suggests that Europe is far from failing here. Let's have a look at a couple of data points. These are some performance indicators from the US. Population, the number of Fortune 500 companies, the digital trade surplus, and the number of startups valued over 1 billion. So this looks pretty good for the US, but compare that to Europe. Europe actually has more people than the US. Europe also has more top companies in the global Fortune 500 list. Amazing. Europe is also the world's largest exporter of manufactured goods and services, and Germany is the world export champion. Not bad. Europe has also bigger digital trade surplus than the US. And Europe is actually not far behind on successful tech startups. Have a look at those numbers. Only 15 less startups valued over 1 billion in Europe than in the US. Pretty staggering figures. We've seen some studies that show that the equation of the number of billion-dollar companies per 1 million users is actually pretty good for Europe. In the Silicon Valley, you have 7.4 billion-dollar companies per 1 million inhabitants. In Stockholm, you have 6.3 companies. So again, pretty amazing. Europe is actually not doing so bad. So all is good? Not quite. We think that European digital businesses have been handicapped in their ability to grow substantially by fragmentation in key areas of policy and infrastructure across many countries. So we need to fix this. Fixing this is long overdue. It's not too late for Europe to lead in digital, but every day we wait, it will make it very much harder. With the number of internet users to globally set to double by 2020, Europe really has to act on this, and this also includes Germany. According to a recent World Bank study, this study tracks both the index of doing business in a specific country and an index that tells you how easy it is to start a company in 189 countries. So this study shows that Germany scores fairly well, as you would expect, as under the top of the 20 of the 189 measured countries when it comes to operating a business. But Germany fails miserably when you look at the ease of founding a company. Only ranks 114 of 189. So many countries that you wouldn't expect make it a lot easier to found a company. So this needs fixing. This clearly needs some work. So what we need is not only Internet 4.0 and the economy 4.0, we also need a Gründergeist 4.0, the spirit of founding companies, because we believe that a lot of the growth for the economy will come from new companies, and not necessarily from the old incumbent companies. So it's great to see that we have a high number of startups here presenting at Code N hopefully some of them will make it into the next success stories that come out of Germany. In the last decades, it really was the young companies, those companies less than 5 years old, that drove job creation, that were net job creators, and not their older counterparts. So we need to support this. Google has a long-standing history of supporting startups on various fronts, and we like to leverage both Germany's and Europe's entrepreneurial potential to the maximum, and we're proud to play our role in supporting this. This is why we support campuses for startups like the factory in Berlin. And this is also why we organize startup meetings and training programs like Startup Launchpad that we operate in many countries, in many cities in Germany. And this is also why Google Ventures, our investment arm, has set up a European fund of $100 million just last year, and it was just recently increased to $125 million, which clearly indicates our commitment to helping the startup ecosystem in Europe grow and help European businesses to foster. We also want to stimulate additional funding and attract others to invest in Europe and in Germany. Because lastly, we have been a startup ourselves just 16 years ago. Last year in Germany, in partnership with partners like Volkswagen, Allianz and 3M, we ran the Founders Garage contest. Over 2,000 startups participated and more than 800 new business models had been created. So again, this is also additional stimulus to creating additional economic gain. But we also need additional education and a new form of education. Don't underestimate how much we need to strengthen our skills in digital. On current projections, there's a growing gap between skills required and the training that workers actually receive in companies in Germany. The European Union itself predicts that almost 1 million ICT jobs would remain unfilled by 2020. And in Germany, more than half of businesses lack digital skills, even though they understand that they need to do something. So there's a lot of stuff that governments and businesses can do to help to address the skills gap, from supporting exposure to digital, to coding in schools, to incentivizing digital skills acquisition and retraining for those that are already in the workforce. We also need a culture of failure. You know, this guy, Richard Branson, is the man who created Virgin Cola, launched in 1994 with bottles shaped in a way that was greatly inspired by the curves of Pamela Anderson. Holy cow, miserable failure. This man also launched Virgin Student, some sort of Facebook, but a little bit too early. And that was eaten by MySpace, if you remember what MySpace was, and that was eaten by Facebook. So we see a serious failure here. But he must have done something right, because he's actually successful. He's actually so successful that he's called Sir Richard Branson. So something is going right with this guy. Sequential failure for him was not the end of success, but sequential failure was a route to success, because he learned from his mistakes, and in fact, he failed with many more endeavors than those he succeeded in. So way too often, especially here in Germany, failure equals stigmatism. I'm allowed to say this. I'm German. If you fail in Germany, chances are that people stop because of the restrictions, of the effects of the restrictions that come associated with failure. For folks in the US or Israel or the UK, many entrepreneurs just get started after they have failed their third company. So something needs to change in Germany as well. We need to train our students, we need to train our children to teach them early what it means to fail and what it means to learn from your failures and set up the next endeavor. In export, speed matters. In general, speed matters. So in an always connected world, the biggest challenge, especially for large companies, is going to be innovative and continue to be innovative. The digital revolution is changing our world so fast that there is no alternative to constant innovation. And digitization, at the same time, brings the prospect of massive economic growth. Again, this is why we have started initiatives such as the Growth Engine, Weltweit Wachsen, that you can learn more about at our booth. When it comes to the classic industry, especially in Germany, that's really important. We really see ourselves as an established partner of this classic industry. For example, in cars, we have been working in partnership for more than 8 years with most of the car OEMs, the car manufacturers worldwide, and also some of the German manufacturers were amongst the most progressive players in this world. And we just announced new partnerships for our self-driving cars with companies like Continental or Bosch, many of them, as you know, very close to here. And in addition, the manifold Google platforms support small and medium-sized businesses to help them grow and reach global audiences. And now, we think that Germany has a tremendous opportunity to be global leader in the computerization of the industry. Some call it the Industry 4.0. The industrial car is actually well on its way, but quite frankly, it's probably fair to say that Industry 4.0 is not such a new invention. It's a marketing term, and it's also not enough. It's also, as I mentioned, about a new spirit of founding companies, the Gründergeist 4.0. You also need an education 4.0, and you need an export 4.0. So again, this is about making the internet successful, reachable, and thriving for everyone. As Tim Berners-Lee said, this is for everyone. We at Google look forward to working with everyone, policymakers, business leaders, parents, and everyone to help harness the web for Germany. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Jens. Excellent. Jens, we're going to have a discussion right away, but let's have a first chat, the two of us, to have the opportunity. Come next to me if you want to. On what you said. You presented these brilliant figures in Europe. Are you trying to make Google a bit less powerful than they are, than you are?
So we do enjoy generating revenue. This is also at the core of the company. We are in a very fortunate situation that we have a sustainable business model which runs great, and it runs great because it's helpful to users. So with this great power, as Superman would say, comes great responsibility, and we take these things very seriously. So we understand that we need to provide perfect service, relevant service to users, because they could just go to another search engine, which is actually what we see. You mentioned the high market share numbers. We prefer not to talk about market share numbers, but the interest of users. So it's great that many users actually actively come to Google every day and use our services, but they're not bound by any contract, or they're not bound by any operating system or something like that. So they actively go to us, and we see this in many countries, that the moment where for example, we had one data center failure in one country, and it only took minutes that people went to another service. So it is in our own interest to provide fantastic services every day and relevant services to end users, because if our services are not great and relevant and sticky, that people want to come back, we probably could have a challenge.
Opportunity was the pivot term of your keynote. What's an opportunity in the Google sense?
So we are, when I'm talking about small and medium-sized businesses, helping small and medium-sized businesses to grow in an indirect way will also help Google grow, right? So sure. If the internet becomes better to use because you have better mobile phones or better operating system on phones, more people will use the internet, and if more people use the internet, hopefully someone will think of searching for something, which is where we can help, and that's where our business model lies. We connect our advertisers to those people that are searching for products or services that these advertisers offer. So that's our business model, and it's very indirect sometimes. So we create an operating system like Android because we want to help the internet to become easier and better. If that happens, ultimately we also generate more revenues. That's our equation. For small and medium-sized businesses, if we help businesses to leverage the potential of the internet for them, these businesses will also drive business and traffic to their websites. People will want to search for these new businesses. If you create a great startup, someone hears about your name, they will go search for that, and we may connect that as well. So if the internet becomes better, if it becomes easier to set up companies, if it becomes easier to create additional services that are online, we also benefit from that. So it's a long-term investment, not into not only into the German economy or the European economy or the global economy, no matter what scale you're looking at. It's also an investment in securing additional business for us, because many of these companies that are just learning to embrace the digital opportunities also come to us and say, okay, what kind of tools can you offer Google to help my business grow?
Well, in the last 5 years, obviously Google has done several large strategic investments into fields where Google was sensing opportunity. I'm talking about Nest or robotic systems or whatever. How do you define that's an opportunity for us? What's the strategic thinking behind it?
So again, we are in the comfortable situation that we are able to invest large amounts of money into research and development to try out new fields. So this is why we have our labs like Google X, where we are trying to solve big humanity problems with technology. So stuff like diabetes. How can you track diabetes in a more
the contact lens?
The contact lens. We created a contact lens prototype. But many of these things we can't do by ourselves. So the self-driving car is another example where we can't do all of these things by ourselves. We need partners. So for the contact lens, we partnered with pharmaceutical companies like Novartis, who are trying to understand better how this could work for a real product. For the self-driving cars, we don't have a business model yet. We just try it out. It solves, if you want to call it, it solves an equational problem, a computer science problem, by analyzing your surroundings in the car, by analyzing where you're going, where you come from, what the environment of the car is. It's an equational, it's a computer science challenge, and we don't know yet whether this will feed into a gigantic new business opportunity for us, but it solves questions. And again, we're very fortunate to be in a position to be able to invest in these fields and then see what we can run. So to some degree, we also try out. It's a very playful way also to try out a couple of things, and not necessarily all of these investments and not necessarily all of these explorations are at our core business model, which is search advertising. So I can't really see search advertising in a self-driving car or on your contact lens.
The Google Lunar X challenge doesn't sound like having a direct business model behind it when you are.
Or the Lunar X challenge. No, I mean that's what many companies do. We clearly are in love with technology. We really like to address questions with computer science. So if you talk about the Lunar X challenge, we are obsessed with finding ways to just think beyond what's typically thought about. This is what we call the 10x thinking. Sometimes it seems odd, but sometimes it's easier to think about tenfolding something rather than just incrementing something by 10%. So, but in order to do that, you need to really think differently than you typically would say, okay, I need to improve my business by 15% or by 10% next year. We think completely different and say, what does it take to go up here? No one has done that before. We don't know how it could be done, but let's invest and find out whether there is a model of finding this. And sometimes these explorations fail. There's a lot more Google X projects that you never hear about.
Okay.
Because they failed at very early stage. And some of them become public, and even some of those that are public will be stopped at some point if we see, okay, this was a great investment, this was a great learning curve, and we learned, just like Richard Branson, we may have learned something from those projects that we can then take into other investments.
Well, the challenges, obviously, like the X challenges or whatever, are obviously just one example of how you collaborate with other teams, with other companies, even with individuals. I mean, there might have been obviously some controversy of the role of Google in the last years, but if there's one consensus, is that the company is open for collaboration, and that's why we're talking about collaboration now. Partnerships, you've mentioned a few examples yourself, how you partner up. And so I welcome on stage, please, Ralf Lenninger, who's a partner in the car sector of Google because he works for Continental, and Christopher Bouveret, who's representing one of the startups. Here he comes.
Hey. Hello, Christopher.
Who's in the finals of the code. And please join us.
Seating order?
No, we just stand around the table. If not, we don't fit.
This is better.
All right.
Perfect.
We all have microphones. Excellent. So we're now going to talk for about 30 minutes and how that rather abstract term of partnership and collaboration can turn into a productive reality. So you're a startup. You work with large companies in the field of augmented reality.
Right.
One of them is SAP.
Right.
You're using a technology provided by Google.
Right.
At some point, the Google Glass. So, David, how is it to work with the Goliaths?
Well, actually, I've heard the speech that we just heard here, everybody, and I think in Germany it's kind of special. It's just about using innovation to drive business. I think it's more difficult here than abroad. But yeah, as I can say, until now, big companies really want to be innovative and love to work with small companies like us. But I think it could go on faster, like, as it does now.
So, what are the problems? You work with one of the giants.
Well, problems in most cases that they cannot come up with the speed that we're going at. So we're pretty fast. We're 55 people right now, or even 60. I don't remember the exact number. But since we're pretty agile, we're going very fast, and big companies cannot take the speed that we're going at. That's like the major problem, I think.
Ralf, we just heard that you're partnering with Google, and you're probably also partnering with small startups in the automotive sector. What's your stance into it? What do you think? How can collaboration on all levels can work in the tech field?
Yeah. The first question is, why is cooperation necessary?
Okay.
Why we cannot
so the
survive?
question is, why do you cooperate?
Right. That's the first question.
All right.
And that's interesting situation. I always compare it to shops in small cities, downtown. 50 years ago, you went to downtown, you went to the bakery, take some stuff on bread, you went to the butcher, take some sausages there, and the world was okay. Then suddenly an integration took place, supermarket shines up. No? Just under one roof, you get all your bakery stuff and all the other things. And so integration took place. Why? Because the consumer said, why should I go to different shops and make all my payments in different manner? Why can't I do it just under one roof? Then a third step coming up in France called hypermarchés, where you even get trousers and pullovers and all stuff like that. And if you look this kind of evolution, one shop, a lot of shops together, and complete things are coming now under one roof, the same is happening in the industry. Look for the car industry. We started 100 years ago, and the car was the mechanical part. And then new things are coming up under the roof of the car, like electric things. Meanwhile, companies like Continental have more software engineers on board than mechanical engineers. And it's even not enough. Because the consumer demands under one roof in a car, I not only would like to have enjoyable driving and safety, I would also like to have my digital world with us. And that is, for your understanding, why suddenly companies like Continental or the automotive industry teaming up with Google and said, why you are not bringing your interesting part to the party, we are bringing our interesting party, and we generate new things in terms to make the society happier or to generate new use cases and business cases for the customer.
Is it as easy? Because
the theory is very easy.
Okay.
If you go to practical life, then it becomes very hard.
All right, but even say on the theory side, say a lot. I mean, if you talk to managers of the car industry, they'd probably rather considered 2 or 3 years ago Google being rather a competitor as a potential partner. So, I mean, in order to collaborate, at least you need two parties who are willing to, aren't it?
Yeah, I think this is a new word of cooperation. I think we need to forget some expressions like a partner or a customer or a supplier. Joining technologies together, different kind of business models can shine up. Give you one example. We could imagine a business case where Google is helping us to making our product better with their kind of services, and then we will go in a kind of business model where Google is supporting us and they are kind of supplier situation. Okay. Vice versa, we have published this. Google has said, I'm looking to build a new car. I need your technology. Can you help me out? So we are supplier. Or an OEM is coming to both of us and they say, Conti, please make a little piece ready, and Google make a piece ready, join together and offer it together to me, and then be in a partner mode.
I'll give you one anecdote. Google has been working with the car industry for many years. First as a client, as an advertising client, obviously. We've done that for the entire time of Google's existence. But 8 years ago, we started to talk with many car manufacturers, as I described, on embedding internet services into connected cars. And the first discussions with some of the OEMs, I'm not going to mention any names, were interesting, to say the least, because of the fact you mentioned this kind of new type of partnership. Many car manufacturers were so used to talking to suppliers, right? So OEM XYZ would come to us and say, we'd like to embed Google Maps in our car. How many points of interest do you have in your map database? And we would give this Rolls-Royce type answer saying, well, it's sufficient. Right? We can't give you a number, it's sufficient, just like the engine power question for a Rolls-Royce. And then the next question of this poor purchasing guy in this OEM would be, okay, for how many of your points of interest can you supply telephone numbers? We said, we don't know. We're working on making that 100%, but we don't know. We have our own interest in making this perfect because these results are also used for our own services. So at some point you get stuck because you have this poor purchasing department trying to fill out a tricks or trying to fill out an Excel sheet saying, what are your KPIs on these different points? And we just say, okay, we have a different partnership. We talk about a partnership, not a supplier relationship. And that was pretty tough for both sides. It was tough for us to learn that we can't just go into the car industry and say, well, here's our great services. Everything is nice and shiny and colorful. And by the way, our production cycles are 3 weeks, not 3 years. We couldn't expect this to happen. We had to learn, and the car manufacturers had to learn as well to embrace new partnerships, because we were not the only ones coming to them saying, well, we need partnership with you. Both sides have a benefit of this new type of partnership. With some manufacturers, including Audi, who are again exhibiting a car up here with some of the Google technology, working with Google was the first time that a non-car OEM brand appeared on the head unit. That was unheard of in the marketing departments. And you can imagine that this also triggers some questions at the car OEM level. So again, both parties have to learn. Unfortunately, we have had many years of experience now. And then we have the tier 1 suppliers like Conti and Bosch and all these people who are also trying to be innovative and providing great services and products to the OEMs directly. So it's a new type of partner. And then you have three-way relationships. It just gets complicated, but so far it's been really fruitful. And I think it's just opening up to being able to learn and open to learn.
Well, a lot of car manufacturers probably are rather afraid of becoming, not being a partner, but someone who's rather exchangeable for Google. I could use whatever car in order to make a self-driving car or whatever. So,
well, first of all, there's, as I already mentioned, there's a lot of additional partners who are also trying to get in contact with the Contis, the Bosch, the Audis, the VWs, the Daimlers, because they also want to provide additional service. There's companies like Spotify, Pandora. You have companies that provide hardware to you guys, provide hardware like modems or technology for sensors to the car manufacturers. Google is one of so many, I don't know how many partners you need to build a car. It's probably hundreds of partners.
Thousands.
We are one of these partners. We're not taking over the operating system for a car. We are not taking over the value chain for selling a car. And in the end, it's just like creating a book. You need curation. You need someone who defines what this car should look like, what it feels like. It's all about emotion. You don't buy a Porsche or an Audi or a Daimler just because you want to have a steel chassis. You want to have a car. You want to have a brand image with that, and they will continue to do that. And we're absolutely positive that this will continue in the next years as well.
Christopher, how does, from your perspective, looks an ideal way of collaborate with one of these big companies, which provide platforms on which you can operate?
I think it's basically about the goal that has to be the same. It's about bringing B2C user experience into the B2B. So this is one of the main goals that we're facing when we're talking with big companies, because as you might imagine, workers these days are confronted with systems that are not so easy usable as Facebook is or as Google products are. So this is like the main challenge to get the goal right, what we want to achieve. And then it's also about finding different pieces of hardware, software, putting them together in a highly innovative way. This is what we're doing, and this is what we're discussing about with the big companies. Yeah.
Can you explain how your core products work? How your products work?
Yeah, right. Well, basically, we came up with a platform that makes it possible to connect any kind of backend with any kind of mobile device in a process and user-centered way. Okay. This is to help people to do their work even faster, more efficient, and with more fun. Because we have a strong integration background, and when you work with integration, in most of the times the users are not really in the center. It's about what the system can do, and the system has like 50 methods, so it gets 50 buttons, and people just have to learn how to work with it. And that's, in our opinion, that's not the way that systems should be designed in the future. And well, our platform, it's called Simplifier, makes it easy to connect any kind of backend system like SAP, Oracle, whatever you name it, with, for example, wearables like Google Glass or smartwatches or even just tablets and smartphones. So we think this is like the main challenge to have one standardized technology to empower big companies to do all this fancy stuff that their workers demand for because they're used to it in their B2C life.
So the two of you are competitors, right? You're trying to do the same thing.
Well, competition is great. So
watch out.
I wouldn't say it's a competition. I would say it's more of a partner. We're using Google products whenever possible, and so it's not even a competition. It's just.
I think what's also important to understand is that the barriers for creating a company today, if you forget for a second how difficult it is to get regulation and get your company formally set up and what have you and legally set up, just setting up an idea technically has become so easy. We could come up with a great business idea on this panel, and by the time the sun sets today, we can have our website up, we can have our e-shop up, we can have a forum, we can have all kinds of commerce. We don't need to hire an engineer to set up a server. We don't have to buy servers. We don't have to buy storage. We don't have to buy computing power. We can lease all of that. So technically, by the time that the sun sets today, we can have our company set up, including marketing, and Google can help here. The barriers of entry have become so low. It's so easy to get started, and I think that's what the potential of open platforms also are. And you could go to many companies today. You can go to Salesforce, as we just heard in one of the other talks. You go to Salesforce getting cloud services. You can go to Amazon to get storage space or computing power. You can do the same at Google or Microsoft or many other companies. It just has become so easy, and many companies, and nothing excludes one another. If you have your startup idea, you can get storage space from company A and server space from company C and hosting from company D. So I really believe that this really fosters the creation of new startups and ideas. You just need to teach, right? It's just about a question of educating people.
All right, so we're going to work on our disruptive business idea right after this panel on
Absolutely.
coffee table later on,
Absolutely.
But before that...
I'll make you the spokesperson.
Ralf, if you could define three rules in order to make collaboration functioning, what are these three rules from your experience in the last years?
First is to have a common vision.
Mm-hmm.
Second is to have the right people in place.
Okay.
And if you have both, you don't even need a third one.
Excellent.
That's a good one.
And what do these two key assets then will lead to? What's the opportunity of this big opportunity?
Not to cooperate, to meld technologies together in such a manner that it's allowed to really create new things. Give you a concrete example. When we learned the car becomes part of the Internet of everything. And we as Continental, even we have 10,000 software engineers, we have no clue what's going on in the back end, on the IT technology. So we have had the decision what we are doing. Are we building up this competence, reinvent the Internet, or should we team up? And then we said, no, teaming is a better idea on that. So we have done, talked to a lot of companies. Finally, we found IBM as the right fitting party on that. And very soon we have created with the top management of IBM a vision. So if the car becomes part of the Internet of everything, connected to the back end, and IBM being heroes in the back end, that make a lot of sense. Then chapter number 2 was coming to make it happen, to sit together with the lawyers, to make a kind of agreement, what does it mean, how to handle IP, then it becomes really blood, sweat and tears. And the only reason why we have overcome it was that on the IBM side and our side, people really strongly working together have been really so much teamed up in order to make it happen. And that is really concrete experience on the case of IBM. Same was in Cisco. By the way, it was also partly the same at Google.
What does it mean for companies? Will they merge in a lot of cases? Because if technological change is so big as we assume, obviously sometimes it might be much easier to merge a company and then do it within one organization.
No, the dinosaur did not survive.
Okay.
Though the typical way of traditional industry was if we work together, let's join together. But I think it's the wrong way, because you never know what the best way of joining together is. Sometimes in our example, Google should be our customer. In other things, we should be the customer of Google. And in the third arena, we also be partner to third parties. So leave it open. And I think this is one of the major things we need to cover in the traditional industry, to accept that the world is not black or white, I'm a supplier or a customer, that we accept there will be a lot of different business models, and the ability to adapt to these models will define a lot of the success of the companies.
How do you decide that transaction costs are cheaper when you collaborate with someone outside, and when you say, well, that's a task that we can do on our own, and then we're going to integrate it in a better way in our business model?
That's not so complicated.
Okay.
So in the experience, so for example, with IBM, we are running 11 different programs. And we have 3 different business models. One is we are customer. We give an order to IBM. Please develop this for us, supply it to us. Business model 1. Business model 2 is we partner up and do common investment. So we get source from an OEM for a special project, and we said IBM is investing, we are investing, and at the end of the game, if it comes to revenues, we share the revenue fairly. And the third business model is we don't know. That means we understand there is a kind of interesting use case and business case behind. We don't understand yet the rules of the game, who will be partner, who will be supplier, and so we run business model 3 in such a manner until that point of time, until we understand what is the best to attack the market.
I think that's really critical, because you need to be adaptive to change. You know, to cite Charles Darwin, it's not the species that is the strongest or fittest that will survive. It is the species that is most adaptive to change. And I think that is essential. That's an essential core that is very valid today for many companies. We've seen that in many industries that are touched by digitization. If you don't change, you will die. Listen to that. You will die. And if you have business models that you don't know whether they have potential, well, just sit down and talk about it. And maybe you find something, maybe you don't. But you need to change. And also, if we look back at some of our partnerships, we have all types of partnerships from all ends. We license technology, we license intellectual property, we license, we are a licensor, we give out IP, it's in all directions for many types of different products. And sometimes you may find that you don't need a specific type of partnership anymore because it has changed. And then you adapt the way you work with this particular company, or you cancel a contract and you find out new partners. It's just an ever-evolving ecosystem. And if you're not willing to change your thinking, if you're not willing to challenge your thinking every year, you probably will have a business problem at some point. And this is also why we are trying to reinvent some of the things at Google. every year. So this is why we invest so heavily in.
Well, in a
research.
lot of cases, you incorporate. You could have partnered with Nest. You've
Yes.
got them. Why's
Yeah.
that? I mean, according to that, what you are lying out theoretically.
Haven't
You
bought
too.
out.
Okay, well, let's initiate discussions offline.
So I just don't accept that the question is not valid. Valid in the sense that
absolutely,
in often,
Right.
obviously, often you decide that you don't want to partner. You want to
Right.
own.
Right.
You want to have it on your table. You
Well,
want to be
each-
able to give direct orders.
Right. I think each decision on acquiring or investing in a company is obviously very unique, and it's a very unique situation every single time. But I think one general rule is it should help you to concentrate on those things that you can do better. So if we identify that your company expertise is building the best possible hardware at the top of the line, you can do that better than no other company in the world, and we understand that we can do software much better than your best software engineers, then there could be a situation where we say, well, we can license you some technology, and maybe we need some hardware for our self-driving cars, so we can't do this, and we don't want to be in that business, so we're going to purchase hardware from you guys. And that's the same thing in other areas. Eventually, and I don't know, eventually we may identify a strategy to be, we need to be a car hardware company. I can't possibly imagine that. I can't possibly imagine building plants. But who knows?
Well, Apple can.
Apple can. Well, we're not
Why
coming.
can't you? Well,
They
can't
could, they
answer
have-
it.
I can't answer that.
I
but-
give you that one, but well, not all of you in the digital sphere is thinking that way.
Right.
All right.
But let me help you for a moment.
Okay.
I think it's not the question either to run acquisitions or to make cooperation. It's once again, it's both.
Right.
Give you one example. Continental today is a 200,000 people company worldwide, 34 billion, and we have done 140 acquisitions over the last 20 years. 140. So small startup companies with good ideas, larger company, for example, like Rayons, which we have done last year, and in parallel we have done the corporations. So once again, it's never a way either or. It's a good mix. And I understood this, and Google is the same. No?
What's your stance on that? Have you had any offers by SAP? Being
Well,
rich for the rest of your life, and then you stay Geschäftsführer for 2 years, and then you go sailing or whatever?
Well, you never know, right? But until now, well, we had several talks with different companies. But as I said, I think here in Germany, it's kind of difficult for startups to find the right partners in terms of investors, and not just being investors, also being partners, sharing the same vision, sharing the same goal, not after the fast money, more about the success together. So. Well, until now, we're open for everything, but I will be in Palo Alto in 3 weeks for a few months, so let's see what this will bring.
What's the mentality of the big guys you talk to in Germany? Do they take startups for serious now? Probably 5 years ago, you'd come to another answer than today?
I think it depends on what you're offering, but in our case, they take us serious. But I think in Germany, it's pretty difficult to find companies that believe in a vision. Everybody wants the finished product with a huge market, being ready for sales, and even then they wait until others try it. Okay. So I think that this pioneer, being a pioneer, is not so often found in Germany. That's our experience. But some of them are pretty pushy, and they want to walk the way with us, and so yeah.
Can politics change anything in that game, or is that only management?
No, it's as well. It's three things. It's a society as such. For example, contribution of the press. No? So if they are pushing this and put it really in a positive manner into the newspaper. Second is politics. Give you an example. 2 weeks ago, there have been a Sitzung of the Bundestag. No? And the head of the FDP was telling a story, and he was created a company and he failed. Huh? And then the feedback from one person from another political party was, so you do not know what you are talking about because you create a party and you fail. Huh? And that gives you some indication how the politics are thinking. The financial instruments are not in place. Huh? How to do Gewinnvortrag and stuff like that. So they can contribute as well. And of course the big companies. So everybody needs to contribute. And of course, the startup companies as well. Because if you have a great idea, always keep in mind, innovation is 1% inspiration and 99% transpiration. Now you need to do your acquisition, you need to go next door one more time and really make your business case happen.
Is it also you feeling that you're not allowed to fail anymore in Germany? Because, I mean, at least that phrase has been recited on and on and on in the last 5 years, that you're not allowed to fail in Germany. And a lot of startups failed and founders did it like they do in the US. They just stand up and go for the next one?
It depends on how you define failing. Well, there's always a danger that big companies just take your idea and do it themselves.
Okay.
This is what we faced 2 or 3 times, and they find out that it's not that easy what we're doing. So, but I think failing in a business manner is not a good thing in Germany, because you have this stigma afterwards, and everybody said, hey, he failed, he's not going to do it again. I think this is totally different in the States also, but I think it's kind of changing in Germany. At this moment in time, I would say we're too far to the point of no return. It's gone. So it has to work. That's like we're going right now. Yeah.
So last question, very personal. How will you drive partnerships and collaboration out of your company? Personally, where do you engage, in what sense, what companies in the next 5 years? How you bring that topic forward?
First step is, I use every chance to get in contact from people from various companies and various markets. To have this kind of touch points. Second is to sort it out, where could be some interesting things be done between the companies and that. Third is to make it happen by finding an alliance on people on both sides. So fourth is to make it happen, I need a certain amount of money, a budget, like you 125 million, I'm not sure I will not have 125, but maybe something like that in order to invest on that.
Christopher, how are you going to drive it?
Well, like we did until now, go out and talk to people. Talk to people about your vision, about what you want to achieve, and about the product you're trying to put into the market. And then you will find the right partners sooner or later. In our case, sometimes sooner, maybe sometimes later. We'll see.
Where's your booth? Where's your stand?
It's right up here,
Right up there.
on the left side. So
You all heard
whoever is
it.
interested
If he's
can
interesting
come up
for you,
and talk to
gonna
us.
go
Yeah.
there. Jens, closing
So,
words. How are you going to drive it? I mean, with all the possibilities you have.
I think there's actually nothing much to add to what you guys said. You know, just being open and talk to many people, and we'd like to continue to work with the best in class. I mean, we'd like to identify those who can help us fulfill our visions, but also help these partners that we partner with to help them drive their business. And we do this on a variety of fronts. It's a very complex, very wide ecosystem on a variety of partnerships. And Google would not be Google if we didn't embrace partnerships from the very beginning. Imagine Google Maps without partnerships. You don't have too many data points. Imagine many Google products without the end user contributing to making these products better by feedback and using it or not using it. All these data points can be used to improve that. So you can also call that a partnership with the end user. That the end user is creating a great service, and in return he provides data points that we can use to make the experience better for him. So we're partnering on all fronts, and we'd like to work with the best.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all, the three of you. Thank you, Google, that you hosted this debate, and you're going to explain everyone there how the Audi works now.
Absolutely.
At least the pen, right?
Awesome.
Excellent.
All right.
So great car up there. Very innovative technology in it. Thank you for your input. And I think right here on stage we're going to continue with a colleague of yours.